morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Let's jump into our cosmic weather for today. Starting off at spaceweather.com, our planetary K index is 331.8 kilometers per second. We scroll down a little bit. Our planetary K index is back down to a 0. And in the next 24 hours, it might get as high as a 2. Would expect it to be no higher than that. However, who knows what could happen. And down here we have our sun, and you can kind of see sort of here, this sort of looks triangle-ish in here. Let's take a look at what we got. Yesterday was very weird the way this whole thing came up. The graphic was completely off, probably just a glitch, obviously, but you can kind of see underneath here, can't you? Look. Doesn't this sort of look like underneath here is still the triangle? So even though it's not facing us, it still appears to be there. Alright, underneath. So, is that a dimension doorway into the sun? Possibly. Possibly, that's what one of the theories is. Alright, now our chance for flares is 30% chance we're going to have an M-class flare in the next 24 hours. And a very small chance we're going to get an X-class flare, only about a 5%. And geomagnetic storm activity is also very low, only about a 10%. We're going to have something active mid-latitudes. And in the upper latitudes, there's a 30% chance it could be a bit more of a minor storm. Alright, that's what's going on with our space weather today. Interesting picture, compilation of the northern lights as they were seen over Nebraska. Now, obviously not like this. This is a time-lapsed photography here. But pretty cool nonetheless. Alright. Now, astrologically, today we're on the 29th. Our sun sign is still the same. We're dealing with the sun, or the conscious mind, in Aries. So it's a fire sign, creativity, the beginning of spring, all those creative ideas that come forth. The moon sign, which represents our unconscious mind, currently is between two signs now. We're between Gemini and Cancer. Gemini is an air sign. Cancer is a water sign. So we're now dealing with both of these energies as we're making the switch from one to the other. So we've got air, water, and fire. Air, water, and fire. Fire is the conscious mind. Unconsciously, water and air. Now, we know how basic elements work. We know that water can put out fire if there's a lot of water. A light sprinkle, maybe not so much. We know that air can blow really heavily and put out fire. We know that it can also stoke the fire by the right amount of breeze. So unconsciously we could see that the air and the water mixing together, there's a lot of ways they can mix. They can create a big storm, or it could be something nice and calm, and then you add that effect to how it's affecting the sun or fire. You know, you get the idea, and that's what we're looking at. Just basic elements. The universe is not all about complicated information. Sure, there's information we can take that can be very in-depth and very detailed, but the basics are pretty darn simple. Now, next one up here, we've got our moon phase, and we're 39% of the way up there to full. So we should be there next week. And on our Mayan oracle, we've made our way around to the 5th position right down here. The 5 sun, you got the 5 overhead, which is the overtone. In the middle, the sun is called the Dakin, and then the guide above it, the star. And then our supporting cast members, we have the dog, the antipode, the analog, which is the storm, and the occult or hidden power, which is the dragon. And altogether, these energies all support what's going on in the middle, which is the star. The star is all about enlightenment. And the sun is about the enlightenment. The star is shining bright, radiating elegance. So altogether, our phrase for today is, I empower in order to enlighten, commanding life. I seal the matrix of universal fire with the overtone tone of radiance. I am guided by the power of elegance. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Thursday, March 29th, 2012. Alright, 2012. So, alright, the last 2 days, I played a special. I played part of it on first day, Tuesday, part on Wednesday. I'm going to play some more of it again today, and to finish part of it tomorrow. This is called the Hidden Human History Movie. It's an animation. If you've been watching it, it's pretty interesting, and I think it has a lot to say, so I wanted to make sure that I played chunks of it in this show as much as possible. Alright, so here we go. This is Earth's Hidden History. Let me go ahead and set things up properly here. There we go. And away we go.
Thoth, who was the priest king of Atlantis at the time, learned that they would have to perform this experiment on themselves. They received instructions from the highest levels of life and they went on their way. Thoth proceeded with a being named Ra and Aragat, who were previous kings of Atlantis, and began the experiment. To understand what they did, we have to talk about consciousness grids. A planetary grid is an etheric crystalline structure that envelops the planet and holds the consciousness of any one species of life. This grid does have an electromagnetic component associated with the third dimension, but it also has a component for every dimension as well. These grids are geometric, of course, and science will eventually discover that there is a grid for every species in the world. Each of these grids have their own geometry and are unique. There's not another one like it, just as the species itself are unique. These grids give off light as well, and from space they can be seen as the source of the bluish glow around the Earth. What Thoth and friends had to do was create a synthetic Christ consciousness grid, allowing humans to ascend to Christ consciousness in a very short time. But first, let's talk about the science behind the grid. Perhaps you've heard of the 100th monkey experiment. Over a span of 30 years, scientists were researching a species of monkey called Macaca fuscata on an island in Japan. They were providing the monkeys with sweet potatoes by dropping them in the sand. The monkeys liked sweet potatoes, but they didn't like the sand and dirt so much. A few monkey children figured out that they could wash their sweet potatoes, and some of them taught the technique to their parents. Only a few of the adult monkeys did this though. This went on for some time, until one day, the monkeys who actually knew the technique hit critical mass. And bingo! The technique started spreading faster than it did before. Monkeys started learning it really easily across all of the Japanese islands nearby, as well as on the mainland. They knew that there had to be something that wasn't yet understood about how a species is connected to itself. So what did we do? We tried it on humans. A research team made a picture out of human faces. About 100 faces hidden within a single picture, but at first glance, you could only see about 6 or 7. They did several surveys with a few hundred people in Australia and said, alright, find the faces. Most people could only pick out 6, 7, 8, 9 or so, not many more. After that, the research team went to Britain and aired the picture on a closed cable BBC special that was shown only in England. They showed where all of the faces were, every last one. Half of the research team, which stayed in Australia, did the experiment again with new subjects. And lo and behold, people were just naturally able to see more faces. After this experiment, they knew that something definitely connects us all, and the field of noetics is learning more about it daily. It's mass consciousness. In Lesson 11, I showed you the 3 levels of consciousness. Each of these levels have their own consciousness grids around the planet, and our second level grid is based on squares and triangles. Many governments of the world, especially the Russian and US governments, were studying our grids back in the 60s and probably earlier. When mapping out the grid on the planet, you find little military bases on many of the nodal points of the grid. There are tons of these bases way out in the middle of nowhere, like on little islands like Guam. This couldn't be a coincidence that these government powers placed their bases right where the little spirals came out of the grid. They were trying to take control of the grid, because if you control consciousness, you control what we think and feel. Of course, there was another organization that had its hand in both of these governments, and still do, and we will discuss them soon enough. This grid is visible through astral projection as well. 13,000 years ago, it began. Thoth, Ra, and Aragat were to create a global complex that was able to build a synthetic Christ consciousness grid over a 13,000-year time period. The first thing they did was to fly to a place which is now called the Giza Plateau, but back then it was known as the land of Chem. It was also a rainforest back then as well, not desert like it is today. First, they created a grid around the planet 4th dimensionally, and then began to construct it in the physical 3rd dimension. They went to the male energetic axis of the Earth and constructed a complex which today is called the Solar Cross. These men were 6th-dimensional beings at that time and were living at a very high level of consciousness, so whatever they thought happened instantly. It was that simple. According to Thoth, he built the Great Pyramid, not the Egyptian king Cheops. Thoth says that it was built 200 years prior to the pole shift and built very quickly. These pyramids were aligned precisely with both Fibonacci and golden mean spirals emanating from out of the solar cross. Interestingly enough, Edgar Cayce also channeled that the pyramids were constructed in this time. The pyramids were also found to be built from the top down. The stones on top were placed first, which has baffled researchers ever since. Every time more is learned about the pyramids, we move further into dark on understanding how they were formed. If what Thoth says is true, well, that explains everything. From there, Thoth and friends constructed an entire network of temples and structures along this grid 4th dimensionally, placing them on nodes on the new synthetic Christ consciousness grid they were creating. All of them were made with Fibonacci or golden mean spirals, and all of them were mathematically referred back to the solar cross in Egypt through the Great Pyramid. The creation of all of the sacred sites on the planet were no accident. It was a single consciousness that created them all, from Machu Picchu to Stonehenge to Zaghuan, you name it. There are a few exceptions, but most were created by a single awareness as part of a unity consciousness grid. Although the Great Pyramid was done all at once, many of these ancient structures of the world were made fourth dimensionally and slowly dropped in frequency until they manifested on the third dimension over a long period of time. Richard Hoagland's research brings this forward, but he wasn't the first either. They showed how one sacred site is extrapolated from another to another to another. A hot topic of discussion right now are ley lines. These are simply geometric relations between sacred sites. Archaeologists are now finding these huge connections between major spiritual sites on the globe, and now we know why they're connected. These sites had to be built physically so that the Christ consciousness grid could manifest. In a way, think of the physical sites as the wiring of a giant wireless electrical system, and then it needs about 13,000 years of continuous energy flow for it to actually turn on. And just so that you're not left in suspense, yes, the grid was completed. It came to life and is now active, though not really used. Congratulations, Earth! We actually survived. Not only has Thoth told us this in person, but he's also written it down in the Emerald Tablets. These tablets were left in the Great Pyramid thousands of years ago. There are 12 tablets in total, formed from a substance created through alchemical transmutation. They are imperishable, resistant to all elements and corrosion. Their atomic structure is fixed in place, and no change can ever take place. In that respect, they violate the material laws of ionization. These tablets share a great wisdom, and you can read them at over 100 different levels of consciousness, and you will always understand them differently. If you're interested in this stuff, you should definitely consider reading them. As you can probably tell, Thoth plays a pretty large role in what happened. Most of this information comes from him. Thoth also provided most of this information about the flower of life and its geometric relationship to consciousness with us, and this stuff is tied intimately to the geometry of the universe. Considering the quality and quantity of information that he has shared, it makes you really start considering that this next part can be true. The Great Pyramid has a legendary missing capstone. According to the Emerald Tablets, deep under the Great Pyramid there's a room called the Hall of Records. This room was not built by Thoth and long predates the Atlantean civilization. Within the Hall of Records is the capstone of the pyramid, which is 5.5 inches high, solid gold, and completely holographic image of the Great Pyramid. It has all of the little rooms and everything. However, this leaves us with a 24 square foot piece of the Great Pyramid that's missing. If what Thoth says is true, that missing piece actually belongs to a very special airship that exists on Earth. And the way to the airship is through the Sphinx. The Sphinx, according to Thoth, is not 12,000 years old, but dates back over 5.5 million years on Earth. Deep under the Sphinx, about 1 mile down, is a round room with a flat floor and flat ceiling. Inside this room is the oldest synthetic object on Earth. The object is about 2 city blocks in size. It's round like a disc and has a flat bottom and top. It is also only about 3 atoms thick, except for a pattern on the top and bottom which looks like this. This pattern is 5 atoms thick. Thoth says that it's powered by consciousness, thoughts, and feelings, and connects with your own living Merkaba, which means that it becomes an extension of you and your own energy fields. The ship is also intimately connected with the spirit of the Earth, and is the protector for the whole planet. Thoth built the pyramid the way he did to fit with the ship. When on top of the Great Pyramid, it creates this image from above. The disc ship has a circumference equal to the perimeter of the Great Pyramid. As we discussed in Lesson 11, whenever that ratio appears, life occurs. This ship can only be used by the purest of souls. See, whenever we approach the point in the precession of the equinox where our poles do these shifts, we become very vulnerable. Things often degenerate, and while things become chaotic, there are often other species who wish to take us over. This has always happened, not just with us, but with all evolving consciousness. Every time a takeover seems imminent, a very pure person will find their way to the ship and raise it into the air. The Earth and Sun will connect with that person and give him or her great power. Then, whatever that person thinks and feels will happen. And think about it. If consciousness is the primary core component of the entire planet, does it not make sense that it would have its own defense mechanism? This defense is an airship that plugs into the Earth and the Sun, allowing the Earth to have protection. Our takeover event actually already happened, the same year the Christ grid was activated. The year was 1989, and we were having some troubles with the Greys, a race of ETs who were slowly plotting takeover due to a previous scuffle we were having. A very pure woman in Peru made the ascension process into the Christ consciousness grid and found the ship. She tuned it to the frequency of the 4th dimension, where she raised it through the Earth and into the air, and manifested a situation for the Greys to leave. Within a very short time, the Greys began getting sick, and remained sick for as long as they stayed here. They have been forced to leave for now, and we are once again safe. The ship is a warship in that whatever race is trying to take over, the person will just think them away, think up a situation, and force them to leave. Returning to the events on Atlantis, after completing the complex in Egypt, Thoth and pals returned to Atlantis, where they waited for about 200 years until that critical point on the precession of the equinox where the poles would shift. They knew that Atlantis would sink, and they would be ready.
Previously on Thoth and Pals.
Thoth, the poles are shifting.
Oh, the pole shift?
Yeah, whoa, what's wrong with your eyes? I don't know.
When Thoth first saw signs of the polar shift, they returned to the land of Chem and raised the warship into the sky. They went to Atlantis and picked up the Nacals. The Nacals weren't just passengers though, and each and every being was working in unity to create a very powerful Merkaba around themselves and the ship. They returned to the Great Pyramid and landed the ship on top, forming the phi ratio with the pyramid. And then, it happened. The poles began to shift, and human consciousness began to plummet. Simultaneously, the electromagnetic and magnetic fields of the Earth collapsed, and all life on the planet went into the Great Void, the 3.5 days of absolute blackness described by many ancient cultures in the world. The Emerald Tablets say that whenever we go through a polar shift, we go through a void space as we change our frequencies for about 3.5 days. This is also in the Troano document, depicted by 3.5 stones painted black. This refers to a time when we go through what science calls the electromagnetic null zone. During the pole shift, a phenomenon takes place where everything just seems to disappear for a certain time. Usually it's between 2 to 4 days, and the last time it was 3.5 days. Here's where it gets interesting. What happens to us does not usually happen to a normal species, because most advanced species will have their Merkabas handy at the time of the shift. We didn't, due to our little crisis, and we got sucked into the void space without protection. This resulted in us losing our memories. Science realizes that all of our memories are connected through cells in our brains as well as fields around our heads. What is not entirely understood by science yet, at least not directly, is the connection our memories have with the planet itself. We've discussed this before. The magnetics of the Earth affect how we think and act. The Merkaba is an electromagnetic field that you create around your body that can serve as protection from void as you're consciously going through it. What happened to us when we didn't have that protection? It was a clean wipe. When we existed on Atlantis, we were living at a very high level of consciousness in a higher dimension. We had extremely advanced and sophisticated bodies and minds, and were capable of practically anything, living in a dimension where molecules were spaced so far apart that consciousness could interact with them without physically moving. It's hard to explain because you can literally shape your environment immediately through your consciousness in these higher frequencies. In that sense, we were creators, knowing and understanding oneness, beings of love. But then we fell. We dropped back down to this place called the third dimension. We also fell in consciousness back to zero. We forgot how to use the pineal gland, and it slowly shrunk to the size it is now, like a raisin, where it's supposed to be eyeball size. When this happened, we forgot how to breathe source energy into our bodies, and our lifespans went kaput. Eventually, we went from 900 years to what it is today. We had not experienced this dense reality that we had before, at least for a very long time. We were kind of like a supercomputer that gets completely wiped. No operating system or anything. We had these advanced physical bodies, but we didn't know how to use them. This is why today we are so physically advanced compared to pretty much all the other animals in this third dimension. For a time, the survivors of the Atlantean fall, and there were a few, were literally hairy barbarians. We even had to rediscover fire. The reason we're having such a hard time finding evidence of Atlantis is because for the most part, the events of Atlantis took place on a much higher dimension than our physical Earth exists on right now. Everything I've drawn of Atlantis can't be taken as that's what it looked like, because it didn't. This landmass did physically exist, but the Atlanteans were not inhabiting that dimension of its existence. If the warship hadn't been protected by the Merkaba, the Nacals would have lost their memories. They retained their memories when the Earth came out of the void and began their work once more. Thoth and 1/3 of the Nacals went to the Island of the Sun in Bolivia. Aragot and 1/3 went to Tibet, and Ra and the remaining third went to Egypt, where they waited. Now, we're going to begin bridging the gaps between this story and our current history. In between the fall of Atlantis and the dawn of our first civilizations, who were the Egyptians and the Sumerians, there was a 6,500-year gap between them. What was happening to us in that time? We have to look at this precession chart again. This is where we fell in consciousness, point C, and this was our falling asleep phase too. Thoth, Ra, and the Ascended Masters were waiting until point D. They had to wait for humans to just evolve themselves over a 6,500-year time period until they were advanced enough to actually receive this new information that they were going to provide. Sometime in here was when the flood of Noah occurred. Because of the pole shift, the Earth went through an ice age. This is scientific fact. When the ice melted, it would have caused massive flooding. DNA is the physical manifestation.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today, and I have for us 5 good stories. First story here comes to us from Bloomington, Illinois, of a V-shaped UFO with 6 lights. This was earlier in the month on the 2nd. Said lasted about 45 seconds. V-shaped craft with 6 lights and wings above each. Okay, last night I let my dog out of the backyard. Earlier night I had seen Venus and Jupiter. I was looking to see if I could still see them, but then they were set by this point. When I looked, the southwest away from my house. I saw a V-shaped object flying from left to right. It was flying a V of orange dim lights, and the point of the V being the front. There were about 6 lights on each wing of the V. The individual lights looked strange and more like a halo of normal lights around a dimmer center and a brighter ring around the center of light. I watched the object for about 30 seconds, tried to pull my phone out and take a picture, but was not able to get one, probably because it was too dim. Alright, this is just sort of a depiction of what it might have looked like. Alright, the link's available for you to check it out. Next one here, daytime UFO hovering over Essex, UK on the 28th. This daytime footage of some unknown object hovering in the sky was recorded near secret nuclear bunker at Kelvedon Hatch in the borough of Brentwood in the English country of Essex on Wednesday, the 28th of March, 2012. It's a large underground bunker maintained during the Cold War as a potential regional government headquarters. All right, let's take a look at what we've got here. Okay. This comes to us from the 28th. There's our object in question. We've all seen this round silver gray metallic looking object. Alright. There we go. Just hangs right there in the sky. Our next story comes to us from San Antonio, Texas. A beautiful, stunning orb filmed in San Antonio. While filming in the distance, I saw what at first appeared to be a possible feather fluttering in the wind due to its flight pattern. It wasn't so. So I removed the camera from the tripod and filmed the cute small white orb around 7 p.m. It was fairly close to me downstairs in the courtyard. I called my husband to come out and see it. It was the first orb my hubby had seen with his naked eye. It went straight up into the sky. The orb was meandering along and suddenly increased speed and went straight up into the sky. Alright, let's take a look at what we got here. Okay, there's our orb in question. Very interesting indeed. Alright. Something to check out. What do you think about this one? Think this is real? You think this is just something that someone created, a hoax? And there it goes. Bye-bye. Alright, there you go. And our next story comes to us. Now, in Aztec, New Mexico, there was a UFO sighting. It happened before the Roswell event. And there's been a UFO symposium that has taken place in Aztec for many years. As a matter of fact, our band Ufotry has been over at Aztec a couple of times. I think our very first show we did was at Aztec, and Stanton Friedman. We were fortunate enough to have Stanton Friedman introduce us for our very first ever performance. Anyway, Aztec UFO landing, subject of a new book. The Aztec UFO Symposium may be a thing of the past, but discussion continues about the purported 1948 flying saucer landing. The upcoming release of the Aztec incident, Recovery at the Heart Canyon by Scott and Susan Ramsey, may spark renewed interest in the incident, and the authors claim the book will change history. The book provides new evidence about the famous incident, incorporates significant background on the Four Corners region. It is a culmination of 25 years of research by the Ramseys, including reviews of more than 55,000 documents and interviews of eyewitnesses in 27 states. The Ramseys affirmed their research proves that a controlled landing by a craft not of this world did occur, and that the U.S. military rushed in to cloak evidence of the landing. What exactly occurred at Heart Canyon, 12 miles northwest of Aztec on March 25, 1948 has long been debated. March 25th, yes, 1940 has long been debated. Skeptics say that Frank Scully, author of the 1950 book Behind the Flying Saucers, was the victim of the hoax perpetuated by several conmen. In his book, Scully claimed that the UFO landed in Heart Canyon and 16 dead humanoid bodies were discovered at the crash site inside a 99-foot metal disc. The military reportedly secretly removed the craft and the bodies. The debate about the veracity of this event has continued to the point where it has become the focus of the annual UFO Symposium. Ramsey believes the book proves a reality of the incident, which was probably less of a crash and more of a controlled landing by a UFO after it was shot, he said. So, very good. I checked this book out. The Ramseys are excellent researchers. I've got to know them both during the times of going to Aztec. And check this book out. The link's available so you can find your way to it. And I did say that this was before Roswell. I was incorrect. It was just shortly after Roswell. Less than a year away. Alright, one more story here. You've all heard of the Nephilim, the giants. We hear of them story in the Bible. Well, this is a writing about an image of a possible Nephilim that is in a stained glass of a church. More specifically, the stained glass of Chartres, the female giant Virgo. This comes to us from Carolyn Shield over at the UFO Digest. I'm writing about the mysterious giants depicted in the stained glass window at Chartres Cathedral. It has puzzled many exactly what message is being depicted by the stained glass windows of Chartres. In my last article, I suggested that one of the giants is Orion because he carries a club in his hand. The stained glass window is depicting the story of Noah and the Great Flood. The giants are placed in the window, and some believe these giants may represent the legend of the Nephilim, the heroes of old who were renowned, the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of earth. They were called the giants. The Nephilim were said to have given mankind sacred knowledge which was forbidden. The stained glass windows dating back to the Crusades in the 1200s demonstrate the legend. Hit the link, it will direct you to the stained glass window. Alright, let's take a look at this. Before we do, let me read this. This was from Genesis 6, verses 1 through 4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. Let's take a look at this. We've all heard the biblical story, and here we go. Now, we've got the one being right here. You can see how tall they are. And this being here, well, they're a couple of feet taller than they are. So either this is a really short being right here, or this is a very tall being. Now, let's say if this was a 6-foot tall being, this would only have to be a 4-foot tall being. But if indeed this was a little bit bigger than just 4 foot, if this was 5-6 foot here, now we're talking about 8-9 foot tall being right here. So, very interesting on what this image is. Something interesting to check out. That's our UFO news for today. Let's jump away, have our moment to wake up. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up. wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is time to demand the truth. And to start things off, let's go jump to Dirk Bradshaw with the latest cosmic news. Dirk, over to you.
Flying high above the planet Earth, this is the Cosmic News with Dirk Bradshaw. I am Dirk Bradshaw.
And if you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lies?
All right, well, here's one for the irony books. U.S. military had 15,634 mega upload accounts. In recent weeks, the battle has continued to save the data stored at the now defunct site Mega Upload. Contrary to the image painted by the entertainment industry, untold numbers of people use the file hosting service for completely legitimate sharing. Today, we can reveal that not only did people at the Senate, Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and NASA hold Mega Upload accounts, so did more than 15,600 members of the U.S. military. Ever since Mega Upload was dismantled in January, there have been concerns about the data being held on the site's servers. Well, the MPAA and the RIAA insist that the sites were simply a huge piracy hub. The facts point to a much bigger picture of people using the site for countless legitimate transfers of files simply too large to email. As mentioned earlier this month, Mega Upload's legal team is working hard to reunite site users with their data, an aim also shared by the Electronic Frontier Foundation with their Mega Retrieval campaign. As part of this process, Mega Upload discovered that a large number of Mega accounts are held by U.S. government officials. Today, thanks to fresh information provided by Torrent Freak, we can reveal more details. From domains including dhs.gov, doe.gov, fbi.gov, hhs.gov, nasa.gov, senate.gov, treasury.gov, and uscourts.gov, the number of accounts held by Mega Upload total 1,058. Of these, 344 users went the extra mile and paid for premium services. Between them, they uploaded 15,242 files, a total of 1,851,791 megabytes. Well, a couple of million megabytes of lost data is bad enough. Another group, the ladies and gentlemen of the U.S. military, stand to lose much more from domains including af.mil, army.mil, centcom.mil, navy.mil, and osd.mil. A total of 15,634 are registered to Mega Upload. Of these, an impressive 10,233 people paid to upgrade to a premium Mega Upload account. And between them, they uploaded 340,000 files, a total of 96,507,779 megabytes. There is no suggestion that any of these military operatives or government employees were using Mega Upload for infringing uses. But it is almost guaranteed that documents, photographs, and videos are now at serious risk of deletion. For the Cosmic News, I am Dirk Bradshaw. I return you now to Joshua Poet and First Contact. Flying.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. So, pretty crazy, huh? You got the government officials which are using Mega Upload, but then they dismantled it because they say that it's being used for piracy when a lot of legitimate uses are being logged. So it's kind of crazy. Again, the crooks are running the show, and as long as it's okay with everybody, they'll keep running the show. But I just keep wondering when somebody who can actually do something out there, like the military, when you're actually going to step up and do something. Or do you just sit back and you just watch and let the crooks take over? Something's not making sense here. Don't know what to say. It's just not making sense. All right, our first story here is of Ron Paul, or our next story is Ron Paul. He has some wild ideas. Has the establishment going crazy. He thinks we should follow the Constitution. What kind of crazy idea is this? Actually following the Constitution? Well, that would be kind of like having some form of integrity. And I don't know if the American administrative branch really has the ability to have any integrity. Let's find out what Dr. Paul has to say.
Paul is preparing for a town hall at the University of Maryland tonight. Representative Paul joins us now live from College Park. Mr. Paul, good to see you tonight. I guess I'd ask you the same question that was put to Newt Gingrich today. Has reality sunk in perhaps with your campaign, given the number of delegates you have and what I guess a lot of people would think would be a lack of momentum?
Well, you know, it isn't over until somebody wins, so we're still in the race, and the delegates haven't been counted in a lot of states that we've already had these straw votes in. So the delegate count, it doesn't always reflect the straw vote, so we're very interested in waiting until the counts come in.
Are you hoping at this point for a brokered convention?
Obviously, that would help us because Romney's so far ahead at the moment, so a brokered convention is a real possibility. The first time they've really considered it in many, many years. And people try to say, well, this would be terrible. Why is it so terrible if you can debate the issues? And that's what I'm interested in.
I think perhaps a lot of people would wonder how at this point in the game you have perhaps been labeled as sort of maybe even ostracized as the guy with the wild ideas and that sort of stuff. And the more we hear from other candidates, I think a lot of people would wonder, why are you getting that reputation when we're talking about colonies on the moon and other things?
Yeah, wild ideas like the Constitution, wild ideas like when you need money, you're not supposed to print it. Wild ideas like don't go to war unless you declare the war and balance the budget. You know, those are really wild ideas, but they're not conventional. It is true. The conventional wisdom of both the leadership of both parties is that the status quo is you defend deficits, you keep spending, you print the money, you don't challenge the Federal Reserve, you have the same foreign policy of occupation and nation building and policing the world. But it's coming to an end. Financially, it's not going to last. And that's why we're in the midst of a financial crisis, which is a reflection of a worldwide debt crisis, which has been generated by a dollar reserve currency, and it has to be addressed. It'll be forced to. Economic law demands that we address that subject.
I don't hear any of those themes echoed in the frontrunner Mitt Romney's campaign. Could you get behind a Mitt Romney presidency?
Well, it all depends. I won't be able to do it if he doesn't agree with any of my views, or I don't agree with any of his views. But who knows what will come between now and the convention and when the platform is written. I think he's capable of changing his views on occasion. So maybe they'll come our direction.
Do you get the sense that these the knock about Mitt Romney being wealthy and, you know, the latest in the press was that he has an elevator for his cars at a beach house. Do you get the sense that that kind of stuff is sticking to him and dragging him down and perhaps giving your campaign some momentum? Or do you feel like that's a little bit tired, particularly in the Republican circles, which are making the decisions here?
No, you don't hear me talking about that, and that's why sometimes they think I have an alliance with him, only because when I think he's falsely charged for things, I defend him, like the statements that he was taken out of context, that he really enjoys firing people, things like that. I think when people get hit like that, I defend them. And this idea that you hit him because he happens to have earned some money, I think the other Republicans made a serious mistake by doing this. I don't do that. I'm more interested in his foreign policy, what he thinks about, National Defense Authorization Act, arresting American citizens with the military. These are, to me, very important issues, as well as the Federal Reserve, and that's what will make the difference on how much I can give him support.
Representative Ron Paul, thank you very much for your time tonight. Best of luck.
You're welcome.
All right, they all still ask the same old silly question. Same old silly question, is he going to stay in the race and blah, 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 blah. Don't they pay attention? Apparently not. If they're in the mainstream media, apparently they don't pay attention, which is why they ask the same question over and over and over again. All right, moving along. This next story comes to us from the American Dream. It says, why does the Department of Homeland Security need 450 million hollow point bullets? That's a good question. Why do they need that money? Somebody out there has decided that the Department of Homeland Security needs a whole lot of ammunition. Recently it was announced at the ATK that ATK was awarded a contract to provide up to 450 million hollow point bullets to the Department of Homeland Security over the next 5 years. Is it just me, or does that sound incredibly excessive? What in the world is the Department of Homeland Security going to do with 450 million rounds? What possible event would require that much ammunition? If the United States was ever invaded, it would do the job of the U.S. military to defend the country. So that can't be it. What are all of those bullets for? Who does the Department of Homeland Security plan to be shooting at? According to United States Census, there are only 311 million people living in the entire country. So why does the Department of Homeland Security need 450 million rounds of ammunition? Either this is an incredible waste, or is there something the Department of Homeland Security is not telling us? That is very important to know. That means we have more rounds of ammunition than there are people in this country. So they have 1 round of ammunition at least for every person in this country, and an additional 39 million left over, just in case they didn't get some of those. So that's kind of scary. What is that all about? Not quite certain, but crazy indeed. All right, we're going to address the issue of racism. And it's a very important issue. It needs to be brought up. It's something that over the course of the years just is getting out of control. I know there was thought that when an African American president got in office, this would change everything and Barack Obama would be that man. But apparently he is not. Apparently all he's done is just gone in and continued to perpetuate the racist issues. And all of the other news media outlets that are out there, the mainstream, they keep doing the same thing. And it's really sad. It's really sad because we've come to a point in time where we should be able to look past the color of our skin to be able to understand that we're all beings upon this planet working for a common good of evolving, to evolve as beings. Now, going back with the issues of racism, still getting caught up in the basic of a skin color, that's kind of de-evolution. That's going backwards. So let's not go backwards anymore, okay? Look at your skin. Look at the color of your skin. Look at the color of other people's skin. Isn't that amazing? You've been looking at skin color all of your life. Now, you should understand at this point that there's a lot of different people with a lot of different skin color. That's it. Different colors, like paints on a artist's palette. That's all it is. Different colors. But underneath, everyone is still the same. So we need to look past the colors, and we need to look what's underneath, because the part that's on the outside getting caught up, that racist issue, it's really a bad thing, and it doesn't do any good for this country, and it takes us backwards. As a matter of fact, it doesn't do any good for the whole world. So if you're out there, and you're paying attention, and you're tired of the racist problems in the world, just speak it to others. Look, there's some subjects that I know we say we're not supposed to talk about because every time we do there's a problem. But if we don't talk about them, they just go under the surface and they just bubble and they cause problems underneath eventually. Racism is one of them. We haven't gotten over it. There's a lot of people that have, but there's a lot of those who are in power and positions of authority that are still pushing the buttons of racism, and that's wrong. It's wrong that they're doing it. It's wrong that people are still falling victim to that. Anyway, let me get to this report here. This comes to us from RT about racism. Here we go.
No peace! No justice! No peace! Public outrage over the killing of an unarmed black teenager in Florida by a self-appointed neighborhood watch vigilante.
What do we want? Justice! How do we want it? Now!
Anger at authorities for simply accepting the word of the white Hispanic shooter that it was self-defense.
when the police officer was taking a statement from a witness, and the witness who had actually been on the 911 call said, no, that was a boy calling out. That was Trayvon Martin crying for help. And then the officer said, no, that was Zimmerman. And the officer wasn't even there. So that suggests that there is a culture of racist incrimination.
From the East Coast to Southern California, a massive show of solidarity asking for justice for Trayvon Martin and for the arrest of George Zimmerman. More than a month after the shooting of Trayvon Martin and thousands of miles away, the case is still stirring up strong emotions here on the streets of Los Angeles.
Trayvon Martin wasn't killed because he was supposedly violent. He wasn't killed because he was wearing a hoodie. He was killed because he was a black man.
The case is a stark reminder that racial discrimination continues to run rampant in American society.
Trayvon Martin was targeted and profiled by virtue of Zimmerman's own description in the 911 tapes. He talks about the fact he looks like he's on drugs, he's an African-American male.
The suggestions that hate and bigotry had something to do with Trayvon's death has some comparing his killing to the recent death of a Muslim woman in San Diego. 32-year-old Shaima Alawadi was severely beaten in her own home. A note next to her body read, "Go back to your country, you terrorist."
She's a housewife. She's innocent. She hasn't hurt anybody.
Her heartbroken daughter found Alawadi drowning in a pool of blood. The family wonders what would compel such hatred.
We're not the terrorists. You are. Whoever did it.
Despite the shocking nature of the death, inflammatory language has flooded the web, suggesting that Alawadi may have deserved it or that her family is lying. Islamophobic websites have also capitalized, calling it an honor killing instead of a hate crime.
Black, brown, Asian, white, same struggle, same fight.
Now, along with 1 million hoodie marches planned for Trayvon Martin, 1 million hijabs for Shaima Alawadi groups are being organized. In recent days, much has been said about what Martin and Alawadi were wearing.
I think the hoodie is as much responsible for Trayvon Martin's death as George Zimmerman was.
Comparing a piece of clothing to a gunman is clearly a stretch. It is also a huge distraction in the media from the larger issue that young black men and Muslims in post-9/11 America are still profiled as being dangerous.
We will stay in the streets until justice is won.
In Los Angeles, Ramon Galindo, RT.
All right, and I think because Geraldo Herrera's head is so far up his ass, I think his news is always skewed. And he would say stupid things like that. You know, maybe what we need to do is take all the people that are still racist, that still can't get over the color of skin, put them all in a big arena and just let them fight it all out. Maybe through the process, they'll actually find out that they're actually all the same. You know, maybe, just maybe. You know, and if you can't deal with the color of the skin down here, what are you going to do when you start seeing beings from other worlds? They look different than you, some of them. Some of them look the same, but some of them look different. Some of them have different skin color than anything you've seen here on this planet. You've already seen the gray ones. But there's other ones with blue skin, green skin, purple skin. What are you going to do when you see those? If you've got a problem with skin color now, wait till then. You just need to get over it. Get over your racist issues. Get over it. Get over yourself. And if you can't, just make an announcement to the world that you can't get over the issues and go away somewhere. Go onto an island where you can be all by yourself and take all of your racist friends with you. You know, Spike Lee will drive the boat. I'm sure he wants to go because he seems to be a pretty big racist out there to begin with. And he portrays it in all of his films. And what he did of texting that lady's number and address was not right. You know, too many high-profile individuals doing stupid things like that. We could do without the Geraldo Rivera comments, and we could do without the Spike Lee text and all the other racist nonsense that's out there. Anyway, moving on. Next story. 20 signs we are witnessing the complete collapse of common sense in America. Remember the other day I said we've been divided from our common sense? Well, here's an article that seems to support that idea. What do you do when an entire nation begins to lose the capacity to think rationally? Many Americans spend a great deal of time criticizing the government, and there is certainly a lot to complain about. But it is not just the government that is the problem. All over America, people appear to be going insane. It is almost as if we have been cursed with stupidity. Sadly, this applies from the very top of our society all the way down to the very bottom. A lot of us find ourselves asking the following question much more frequently these days. How could they be so stupid? Unfortunately, we are witnessing a complete collapse of common sense all over America. Many people seem to believe that we could just get Obama out of office, or if we could just reform our economic system, that our problems as a nation would be solved. But that is simply not true. Our problems run much more deeper than that. The social decay that is plaguing our country is very deep and is everywhere. We are a nation that is full of people that do not care about others and just want to do what is right in their own eyes. We hold ourselves out to the rest of the world as the greatest nation on earth and as an example that everyone else should follow, and yet our own house is rotting all around us. The words crazy, insane, and deluded aren't merely strong enough to describe our frame of mind as a country. America has become a sad, delusional old man that can't even think straight anymore. The evidence of our mental illness is everywhere. All right, and I think America has become more than just a sad, mentally ill old man. I think mentally ill old woman as well is more descriptive, that we have a country full of old thinking men and women, not necessarily physically, but just the attitude seemed to be. And we need to get past this. Men and women, we need to get past it. Anyway, let's look at some of the 20 signs we are witnessing the collapse of common sense. 1. According to Wired magazine, FBI agents have been taught that they can bend or suspend the law as they pursue criminals and terrorists. But when they break the law, they become criminals themselves. 2. A TSA manager, not just an agent, at Dulles International Airport was recently discovered to be running a prostitution ring out of a local hotel room. TSA agents have been charged with crime after crime after crime, and yet we continue to allow them to be in charge of airport security. 3. CBS News is reporting that approximately 200 pieces of luggage a day are being stolen by employees at JFK International Airport, and still authorities have not been able to stop it. Visitors to the United States must now pay $14 to complete an online form that asks them a series of really bizarre questions. For example, one of the questions asked visitors is if they ever collaborated with Nazis. 5. The U.S. military is buying huge amounts of electronic parts from China. Mistake number 1, and a government investigation has covered the fact that a large percentage of these parts are counterfeit. Yet the U.S. military continues to buy huge amount of electronic parts from China. Mistake number 2. 6. A high school student in Indiana was recently expelled from school for cussing on Twitter. And I might add that there's no penalty that seemed to have come from Spike Lee sending a racist tweet across to his nearly 250,000 followers with the wrong address of somebody. That goes unnoticed, yet meanwhile we've got a kid who sends a message. Crazy. 7. Police in Chicago apparently believe that our First Amendment rights can be terminated at their discretion. 8. Americans are becoming very cruel to one another. This is especially true when it comes to the weak and the elderly. For example, 2 caregivers down in Georgia were recently charged with waterboarding an 89-year-old woman that had been entrusted to their care. Number 9, an increasing number of American families are taking out student loans in order to pay for their children's kindergarten tuition. 10, one town in Massachusetts plans to distribute free condoms to children as young as 12 years of age. 11, children in America are exposed to enormous amounts of sexual material on television days, but we are always so shocked when they try to act it out. The following is a very disturbing example of what happened in Ohio. 12, following is another example from Indiana of how our sexualized society is affecting our young children. Here was a 8-year-old and a 13-year-old boy were caught having sexual act on a school bus. 13, according to Natural News, the Michigan state government intends to raid private farms and kill pigs that have the wrong hair color, even though some of these farmers have been raising these pigs for decades. 14, an executive order recently updated by the Obama administration would give the federal government complete control over all food, all energy, all health resources, all transportation resources, and all other materials and services. 15, Goes on to say the wording of the executive order has been changed so now can be done even in non-emergency. Very few Americans seem concerned by this. These days, many Americans are hesitant to get involved with helping out anyone. For example, an 86-year-old World War II vet living near Detroit was recently brutally carjacked in broad daylight at a gas station. He could not walk after the attack because his leg was shattered, so he began to crawl across the pavement to get help. Sadly, many people walked past and drove past as if he was not even there. 16. At one airport in Hawaii, TSA agents recently required a new mother to go to a public restroom and fill up an empty baby bottle she was carrying with her own breast milk before they would allow her to get on the flight. 17. Massive brawls have been erupting at Chuck E. Cheese restaurants all over the nation. Police respond to violence at one particular Chuck E. Cheese restaurant in more than just 18-month period. Thieves in New Jersey have become so desperate for scrap metal they have started breaking into churches and ripping the copper piping right out of the walls. 19. Tide detergent has become an alternative form of currency on the streets of America. And 20 new federal rules will severely restrict the kind of work that children can do on farms in America. Kids will be banned from doing many of the most basic kinds of farm chores under the new regulations. Perhaps the children can just sit inside and watch television while the adults do all the work. Anyway, sad but true that these are all things going on. America is dividing itself from its common sense. You got to wake up, America. You got to wake up. Not just America, the rest of the world. What's going on? You got minds up there. Use them. What's going on, man? If you know somebody that's out there and they're not operating at their common sense, give them a nudge. Tell them to pull their head out of their backside. All right. Pyramids of glass submerged in the Bermuda Triangle. These strange underwater pyramid structures at a depth of 2,000 meters were identified with the help of a sonar, according to oceanographer Dr. Verlag Meyer. Studies of the structures like Yogaguni in the modern-day Japan have allowed scientists to determine that the two giant pyramids, apparently made of something like thick glass, are really impressive. Each of them is larger than the pyramid of Cheops in Egypt. Recently, America and French scientists, as well as other countries that are conducting surveys in areas of the seabed of the Bermuda Triangle, claim they have found a pyramid standing upright on the seabed that has never been discovered. The length of the base of the pyramid reached 300 meters, 200 meters height, and a distance from base to tip is about 100 meters above the seafloor. Preliminary results show the structure to be made of glass or a glass-like crystal material, as it entirely smooth and partially translucent. Alright, so there's a story for you to continue to read, follow that out. Kind of ties in with what the animation at the beginning of the show, huh? Alright, one last thing. We're going to jump over here to Dutch Sense and a report of heavy weather going on in the Midwest. Here we go.
Dutch Sense here, 6:11 a.m. Central Time on Thursday, March 29th, 2012. We're looking at Intellicast here. I have the Continental Radar View turned on, plus Titan Storm Tracking, and the National Weather Service alerts. And there's two spots that are standing out here on the Continental View, computers detecting possible tornado and hail in Missouri heading southeast from just north of Kansas City. So when we zoom in here, actual town names, let's go ahead and get some towns. Heading from Cameron, southeast, south of Chillicothe, towards Carrollton. Okay? So if you live in Missouri, be aware there is severe weather getting ready to break out today. It's already really strong. You can see the color key down here on the left, and anything in bright pink and white, that's hail detected for sure in the center there, and also damaging winds. So that would probably indicate why there's a possible tornado detected. Also damaging winds to the north, up in Iowa, and then of course all the way out here on the west coast at the Washington-Oregon border, just north of Portland, a possible tornado detected as well. Now this is a really big system coming on shore here. Let's just back it out and show you what's going on. Okay, this system in the Midwest is really small. Looks like it's going to break out over the rest of today, but you can see the really organized system here out west. That's the one we're going to have to watch over the next few days. as it comes down through the continental U.S. Okay, you'll be able to see which way it's spinning here in a second once all the frames are done low. There's two different flows going on here. The south flow down here near Mexico was cut off by that last huge storm that went through, that took a week to go through. Well, that annihilated the southern flow here, and now you only have this northern draw north of Hawaii going on right now. Now, as you get further south, let me go ahead and turn on the tropical layers, and then you'll be able to see what's going on in the tropics. Okay, down here, it looks like we have another system getting ready to form. Eventually, part of that will be torn off and brought up to the northeast. Let me hit play on that. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about. You can already see it's starting to get a low pressure swirl down here in the tropics, so you know it's going to be pretty strong. And then that'll push it on up, and it'll come right up over Baja and Mexico, coming in through Texas. That will eventually meet up with this other storm that's going through and producing these strong winds on the west coast. So overall, be aware of the situation, folks. If you're traveling today in the Midwest, for sure strong storms, damaging winds, possible tornadoes, hail detected. That's going as far north as North Dakota, down through South Dakota, through Iowa and Missouri, possibly even into Illinois at some point today. Okay? And it also looks like now down here in South Texas, also south of Houston, near Corpus Christi, National Weather Service has a severe thunderstorm warning detected and also hail detected. So, it's going to be a busy day, guys. Hang in there, and thank you guys so much for supporting me over the past few days and helping me get through all this stuff. So, much love, guys. Cheers.
All right, Dutch, thanks for that report. Always good. Pay attention if you're out there in the Midwest, because these things are going on for real. All right, last thing we have here is our meditation for the day. Wrap things up. So, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and close your eyes. Relax. All right, what we're going to focus on for today, for this meditation, we're going to focus on healing the division that is going on within the individuals of this planet. So what I'd like you to imagine, is a large open space in front of you. And as you look through the large open space straight ahead, you see that it is dividing two different areas. To the right is our common sense, and on to the left is no sense at all, an absence of common sense. We'll call it insanity. And down the middle we have this line, and we realize that there's a big problem occurring because we're unable to make any progress through life because we are operating from a place of insanity and we are not utilizing our common sense. And as we look at this division, we realize that we can fix this situation. We can bridge this gap. So we imagine ourselves slowly bringing these two ideas together, our common sense and the insanity. We see ourselves bridging these two until our common sense is rejoined and the insanity disappears. And as we find ourselves reconnected to our common sense, and we look around in the world, we realize all the silly things that we have done in the absence of our own common sense. And as we realize all the silly things we've done, we begin to think of all the ways that we can go ahead and repair the problems. And so we look at the problems of the world and we decide we're going to fix them. First is the problem of racism. We realize how our common sense has driven us off course and how we've ostracized different groups of beings upon this planet. And yet when we realize that we are all here together, we realize that the issue of racism is nonsense and we let it go. And our common sense allows us to come back to the realization that we are all in this together, here together, working together. And as we continue to look around the world with our new eyes of common sense, we realize the problems in our political arenas around the world. We realize how we've allowed leaders that are corrupt, who do not hold the ideals of the people they govern. We realize we've allowed these kind of men and women in positions of power, and now we have to eliminate them from power. And the way we do that is we stand up and we speak out against their injustices. We point out their wrongdoings. And we stand up against their tyranny. And in the process of standing up against their tyranny, we vote them out of office. We remove them from office. We stand up. And as we stand up against all of this tyranny, we feel more fulfilled inside because our common sense is being utilized. And we look at all the problems in our life and we realize all the place where our common sense has disappeared and the decisions we've made have been absolutely insane. And we find a way to heal all of these until we feel whole, operating from a place of intelligence and balance. And let's just imagine from our heart chakra sending out love all around the planet as a green ray of light. We send this all around to each and every individual around the planet. Send it down into the earth as well and up into the cosmos. And let's just think of the word love today. Just think of the word love. And as we hold the word love in our hearts and we go into the world to share the idea of love, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it. That's our show, our prayer, and our meditation for today. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure, as always, to be able to share with you the news and information that's going on in the world. I'll be back again tomorrow. So be safe. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.